Helen Mirren is here. She is one of the most talented actors anywhere. She is known for portraying strong women. In 2003, she was made a Dame of the British Empire. At the 2006 Emmys, she won for Outstanding Lead Actress in a miniseries for her work in Elizabeth I. In her latest role, she embodies Queen Elizabeth II. For her performance in The Queen, she was awarded the Best Leading Actress award at the Venice Film Festival. Here she is as Queen Elizabeth I and Queen Elizabeth II.
Everything I have is yours.
Well, let us pretend that it is yours. It will spice up the act of crossing the threshold. Oh, you're looking at my ankle, Essex.
Well, Your Majesty has a very well-shaped ankle. And a perfect figure.
Yes, well, I have a grateful nation gnawing at my insides.
How nice to see you again, Mr. Blair. Please, do sit down. Have we shown you how to start a nuclear war yet?
No.
Oh, first thing we do, apparently. Then we take away your passport and spend the rest of the time sending you around the world.
Well, you obviously know my job better than I do.
Yes, well, you are my 10th Prime Minister, Mr. Blair. My first, of course, was Winston Churchill.
Also joining me is director Stephen Frears. His films include Dangerous Liaisons, High Fidelity, and Mrs. Henderson Presents. Here is the trailer for his film, The Queen.
Good evening, ma'am. I'm sorry to disturb, but it's the Princess of Wales.
Why? What's she done now?
Have some very sad news to bring you.
Diana, Princess of Wales, has died after a car crash in Paris.
The Prime Minister, Tony Blair,
Is about to make a statement.
Princess Diana touched the lives of so many others. She was the people's princess.
No member of the royal family will speak publicly about this. Diana's no longer a member of the royal family.
What are you talking about?
Charles, this is a private matter. We do things in this country quietly, with dignity.
Will someone please save these people from themselves?
Questions are being asked about why the Queen hasn't addressed her subjects at this time of national grief.
The Prime Minister for you, ma'am.
You've seen today's papers. 70% of people believe that your actions have damaged the monarchy.
Who does he think he's talking to?
Can you imagine I'm going to drop everything and come down to London before I attend to my grandchildren? Then you're mistaken.
Try and see it from her perspective. She's been brought up to believe it's God's will. She is who she is.
I think we should leave God out of it.
What would you suggest, Prime Minister? Some kind of a statement?
The moment for statements has passed.
Are you all right?
Something's happened. There's been a change, some shift in values.
Maybe he's got a point.
What if my actions are damaging the crown?
I prefer to keep my feelings to myself. Foolishly, I believe that was what the people wanted from their queen.
When you no longer understand your people, maybe it is time to hand it over to the next generation.
I am pleased to have them both here to talk about this film and other things. Welcome back. Nice to see you, my friend. Nice. Welcome. Tell me about playing this queen who's alive and these events are recent.
Well, the most intimidating, of course, most terrifying prospect. The only thing that made it palatable was the fact that Stephen was directing and Peter Morgan was writing it.
Now, why did it make it palatable that Stephen was directing?
Because they were a team who'd already done an incredible piece called The Deal, which was about the background to the Gordon Brown-Tony Blair relationship before Tony Blair came into power. And it was a brilliant piece of work on every level. The acting, the writing, the tone of it was very, very good, serious but kind of comedic. So at least I felt that I was in safe hands, because it's a hot potato in England. You know, you cannot go anywhere near this subject without being under the most intense kind of scrutiny. It's a hot potato.
You mean scrutiny by the press, or scrutiny by the royal family, scrutiny?
No, by the press, but also by
the public.
By everybody.
By everybody.
Everybody knows everything we know. You know, they are so present in our lives You know, you post a letter, there's a picture of the Queen on the stamp. So everybody knows everything. So it's not.
But they don't know. They feel like they're going inside with a movie like this. They feel like that this is something they didn't know before.
Yes, absolutely. But they're measuring it against what they already know. So, do we believe this? Is this plausible? You are dealing. There is nothing new in the story. They all know the story. I'm talking about Britain, of course.
So, how did Peter approach this from a script standpoint?
Well, very unexpectedly. Not how you would expect. You would. I mean, if you were making a film about the death of Diana, you wouldn't normally tell it from the Queen's point of view. That was his originality. You'd normally tell it from, I don't know, you know, all of us, we all saw it on television, didn't we? Yes. So suddenly the idea of going inside, that's what's so original about it.
And also the weird contradiction in England, in Britain, I always call it England, Britain, is that although the royal family, the monarchy, is generally a very beloved and respected institution, exactly parallel with that, we have a huge tradition of satirising and criticising and mocking the royal family, and really that's what people usually expect. If you're doing anything about the royal family, people expect, especially if you come from the world that we come from, the arts world, they expect a mocking, satirical kind of take on it. And in a strange way, what was controversial about this film is the fact that actually it's not
mocking and satirical.
Mocking and satirical.
This is unheard of.
Exactly.
This is completely original.
Are you a monarchist?
Well, I'm a queenist, if there is such a word.
Well, there may be now.
It's hard not to admire her. She's clearly an extraordinary woman. Do I think...
How so?
Well, Helen explains it rather well. It's all really to do with the generation of our mothers and fathers who grew up in much the same way, with the same sort of values, and their values that have gone in England. So in celebrating her, you're really celebrating your own parents, or the world you came from, that world of self-discipline and stoicism, and lived through the war, and, you know, rather enduring heroic women.
And constancy, too. I think that's the other remarkable thing about the Queen is that, and, you know, I suspect she's blessed with a lack of imagination, which makes her able to be absolutely consistent and relentlessly, endlessly consistent.
And it's the first time anybody's ever said, blessed with a lack of imagination.
Well, you know, imagination is a dangerous thing. It can lead you up in all kinds of dangerous routes. And I don't think the Queen has that kind of imagination. And because of that, she's able to be utterly consistent. This is my perception only, you know, and it's dangerous to go down that route.
Probably could say the same thing about the Pope.
Well, popes come and go much quicker. I mean, how many popes has the Queen been through, for example? You know.
There's so many quotable things coming out of this. So how did you watch a lot of video of her?
Oh, yes, of course.
You read every biography?
I read every biography. Robert Lacey's was very valuable, and actually the one that I found the most valuable was a book that was written by her nanny when Margaret and Elizabeth were from an age of about 3 to about 18. They had this nanny called Crawford, something Crawford. What was her name? Terrible. I can't. Anyway, she was known as Crawford. And she, and when she was let go, she suddenly found herself without employment, and wrote a book about her experience, and it was considered to be a most appalling betrayal, but it was very valuable. Although it's a rather sycophantic book, actually it gave great
totally
insights.
In praise of the Queen.
Well, the Queen is a little girl at that point. She's not a queen. You know, she hasn't become queen when Crawford writes a book. She has no possibility of becoming
Now, why
queen.
was that the most valuable book? Because you understood what she'd gone through, and therefore...
because I understood then her background, her upbringing, and also, much more important, the nature of the personality of the person before she became the monarch.
So what... Go ahead.
No, just so her true character, as opposed to the character that she had to embrace along with the job kind of thing. So it was that I kind of looked at a lot.
For all this reading from watching, help us understand, which we will see in a minute, in your portrayal.
Well, that inner sense of responsibility, I think, that came, I think she had long before she became the Queen. And there was one little tiny piece of film that I watched over and over again of her when she was about 12 years old, getting out of a car and meeting a dignitary as just as a posh little girl doing a posh girl's job, you know. But she does it with such gravitas and seriousness, and I've got to do this right, you know, and there's no smirking, and there's no, you know, aren't I cute, or, you know, aren't I lovely, or aren't I rich?
It's duty, duty, duty.
It's just duty, and she had that. I think she had that naturally as a young girl. You see her with her sister Margaret in those funny, you know, films, and she's always looking after Margaret, saying come on, but not in a bullying or control freak way, sort of helping her along. Someone, we've got to go this way now, and no, don't run there, and you know, we've got to be quiet now. So she's got that sense of responsibility.
Tony Blair. I saw the movie that Helen talked about. It was just terrific. I mean, I loved it because I love politics. This is Tony Blair when he calls on the Queen the morning after Diana's death. Here